Right, ladies, we all have to go to the gynecologist, but sometimes we're just too embarrassed to ask the real questions. Now, we do want to warn our viewers, this segment is for adult ears only. We're going to be getting into some topics that are not really meant for a younger audience. All right, that being said, joining me now is Dr. Ken Sekine. I'm extremely comfortable asking these questions with him because he's my OB/GYN, and he also delivered my son. So, so that we have no secrets between us. All right, so one of the first questions that comes into us is about dryness. It's a problem for a lot of women. Why does it happen, and how can you treat it?
There are multiple reasons for dryness. Probably the most common is menopause, when the vagina is missing estrogen, as many parts of the body when women go through menopause. The vaginal tissue doesn't lubricate. Other reasons can be infection, and lubrication is a response to being sexually aroused. So it all depends on the situation, but the most common is going to be because the vaginal tissue is missing estrogen.
So if that can be linked back to hormones?
Correct.
Correct. So at what point do you go to a doctor for this?
When you ask the question, why am I having this? Why is it bothering me?
That's when you go.
Absolutely.
You can find out the answer. It could be something that requires treatment. It could be...
Well, as I have a cup on my desk that says, don't confuse your Google search with a medical degree.
Yes, that's I know that cup. Yep, you're right. Don't Google it.
Many people will Google and try and find out the answer, but as we all found out, that Google will give you the worst of the worst. So when I finally see the patients after Google, they're dying.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's... oh, they think they're dying. They think they're dying.
Exactly,
I get it. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So another question that's come in, and this was another really popular one, is why all of a sudden do they have pain during intercourse?
Well, again, when there's dryness, it's going to cause pain. Many women, after having children, can have what we call varicose veins in the pelvis, or pelvic congestion syndrome. So you can imagine those blood vessels that are filled up in the pelvis being pushed against during intercourse. And that seems to be some of the most common reasons. Another reason would be an infection. So
the blood vessels, is there any way to treat that?
Well, most often it's a surgical procedure to when it gets to the point where it's unbearable.
And again, I mean, you should come and see the doctor if you're having that.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Another question, odor. This could be caused from a whole bunch of different reasons.
The most common reason for odor would be an imbalance of bacteria in the vagina. There's certain bacteria, anaerobic gram-negative bacteria, that live in harmony in the vaginal tissue. If women didn't have bacteria and yeast in their vagina in balance, then they'd really have problems. But what happens is when that bacteria overgrows, it breaks down, gives off a fishy or an amine odor. So that's something that we see often in the office, and usually we use an antibiotic for that.
A lot of women are embarrassed to come in because of that. I mean, I've talked to some of my friends, and they're like, I don't want to go to the doctor about this. I want to, get something over the counter. Can you actually make it worse by getting like an over-the-counter cream?
Well, it may not make it worse, but it's not going to make it any better.
Okay. All right.
So my day is full of embarrassing questions.
I'm sure it is. I know this is nothing to you.
That's my profession.
Well, we're going to ask some really embarrassing ones coming up. You may not know Dr. Sekine. He is an expert on hormone replacement therapy. So we're going to be talking to him about some of the questions we've been receiving about that. I'm saving the best for last, folks. I got a really good one right here. All right, so we'll be back in the second half of our show to ask your questions that you've been sending in this morning. So stay with us. If your question didn't get answered, it's going to in the next half hour. Vic, back to you. Oh, actually, we have a big event coming to downtown, Art Republic. We're going to give you the details coming up in just a moment.